All right, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever it is that you're calling in from. Welcome to the EVA webinar. My name is Katie Ejikeme. I'm going to be your co-host. I'm currently located here in Belize, but I will be going over our Nicaragua property with you tonight. So while we're waiting for everybody to log in, if you've joined us before, you know how it goes. Find that Q&A section at your screen and then type in where it is you're calling in from today. Sometimes we find that we have people in the same region calling in. Sometimes it's all over the world. Looks like we have Belize joining us today. See what I mean? Just down the street from me. And then while we're waiting for everybody else to log in, I'll go ahead and let Joe introduce himself. He'll be joining us tonight as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Nagel, like Katie mentioned. I am another property consultant with ECI Development. And today I'm actually calling in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm originally from. A lot colder, as you might notice that I'm wearing my jacket because it's probably low 30s here today, whereas Katie's got her tank top on because she's in a much warmer area there. But I've been a property consultant for about 2 years now. I've been around the company for that amount of time, but my father's one of the co-founders, so I've been very familiar with, our tiny home developments, our other developments that we're building throughout the region. So I'm very excited to talk about the tiny home specifically today. Tiny homes is something that I think that, my generation is very, excited about for multiple reasons that we'll get into a little bit later today. But like Katie said, I will be co-hosting the webinar today. So I'm excited to give you guys an overview about the opportunities.
All right. Yeah, it looks like we have quite a few people that have been able to join. So we'll go ahead and get started now. Everybody's been able to log in.
Right. So as I mentioned, we have more than it's not just Katie and I running this webinar. We have a lot of people, whether it's steering the ship or doing a lot of the day-to-day operations. But this is just a quick overview of our leadership team. Mike Cobb, who many of you have probably seen at conferences or on webinars, things like that. Rachel Jensen, she's frequently doing these webinars as well. She's our VP of Sales and Marketing. And then, Michael Fuller, Yaka, Val, all these people are very crucial. And, we have more than just the leadership team as well. Katie, if you go to the next slide, you guys can see we have quite a large organization. At last count, it's over 100 people. So, we've got a lot of parts and pieces, and, we're a growing company. We've been around for, this is our 26th year or 25th year of doing business. And for those of you who might be joining in for the first time, maybe you're not familiar with ECI Development, what we do, we're a regional development company. So we have developments in many countries throughout Central America. So Belize, Nicaragua, Panama, El Salvador, soon to be Mexico, Argentina. And so building these communities, really our goal is to follow, a model that's already been proven, and that's the Del Webb model. He went and created these communities throughout the southern parts of North America, part of the US, so like Arizona, Florida, Texas. And his goal was to really create these communities to give people different options. And so we've really been copying that model and taking it to Central America, where you've got a lot of geographical options, you've got a lot of, you got a lot of nice weather, things like that. So, doing that model and putting it into the US. And the wild thing about it all is, we have many different developer competitors in the region, and we're the only ones that are doing it throughout the region. So, we've got people in Belize that are building beautiful properties as well, but, not doing it throughout the region is something that it's very interesting to see that, we're still the only ones here, after 25 years of business. So, taking that model, really what our motto boils down to is ECI Development offers inspired residences for adventurous souls. So, those people that are maybe scared the first time to invest overseas, that's what we're here to help bring North American quality to Central America so that it's not, something that is completely new to you. Next slide. So today, like Katie talked about, we're going to be really diving in specifically to our tiny home development, Eco Village Asuchillo. Those are our tiny homes in Nicaragua. But before we do, we're going to give a little bit of an overview about Nicaragua. And we're not going to get into all the weeds about the country because we've actually done full hour-long webinars about Nicaragua, the lifestyle, things of that nature. So if that's something that's interested to you, we do want you to get in touch. Webinars at ecidevelopment.com. Once again, that is webinars at ecidevelopment.com. Just send us an email, and that way we can get you the recording of those webinars, so that way you can learn a lot more about the country. But, Nicaragua, it's located in Central America, like you've seen on the map previously. It's really great from a geographic standpoint because it's got both waterway access to the Caribbean Sea as well as the Pacific Ocean. So You've got both sides, depending on what's of interest to you. It's really an untapped country. A lot of times people reference Costa Rica. Nicaragua is very similar to Costa Rica with its beaches, volcanoes, things like that. So it's a very beautiful country. A lot of times when people talk to me, they're like, "Oh, I've not been to Nicaragua," and you can't. It's kind of like when someone asks you if you've tried, if you like a food, and you say no. I mean, you can't really talk about it unless you've actually tried it. So come down to Nicaragua, check it out. Really quite a lot of beautiful things about the country. But like I said, we dive into all that stuff in a lot more detail during our 101 webinars and our lifestyle webinars. So next slide, Katie. Like I said, it's located right in between Costa Rica and Honduras. Managua is the capital city. That's where the star is. So the bulk of the population density is in the capital of Managua. And then our property, Gran Pacifica, is the closest beach resort to the capital of Managua. It's about 45 to an hour, depending on the kind of traffic and time of day, but it's located on the Pacific side. So that's where it's located. Spanish is the official language, and the population is just under 7 million people. So pretty good sized. And then some of the reasons to stay, we have a lot of people that have shown interest in Nicaragua over the past year. And I think here are just a handful of some reasons that, people are coming, falling in love with it, and then staying. The first is safety. A lot of times when I'm at conferences or doing things, the first question out of people's mouths when talking about Nicaragua is safety. And, I think a lot of the times people think about, what happened earlier. And honestly, I don't even remember it because I'm so young, that was well before my time. So, I think Nicaragua is unfair in that people don't really think about, how it's changed over the years. Places change, and it's actually one of the safest countries today. And one thing I would, reference is with crime specifically, it's very local. I bet you're sitting in wherever you are in the world, in a place that you would deem to be quite safe. And, that's the same thing for Nicaragua. Our property, it's 2,500 acres. It's an hour outside of the city. That's a very safe location. But there are places in Nicaragua I definitely would discourage you from going. And that's the same thing in your hometown. There are places where you probably wouldn't want to be going at midnight, 2 a.m. So, it's definitely hard to say that, the whole country is in the same boat, because a lot of it's changed over the years. And it's actually, using statistics for today, it's actually one of the safest countries. And then also extreme low cost of living. When comparing apples to apples, $1,000 in the US versus $1,000 in Nicaragua is actually, that $1,000 goes 3 to 4 times more than in the US. So very low cost of living. So if you're someone who's retired, you have some kind of pension income, that money can go a lot further along than it can if you're, staying and retiring in the US. And then also climate. Like I mentioned, it's a lot colder in the northern part of the US in this time of year. And in Nicaragua, the climate year round is about 80 degrees. So very beautiful climate. It's not something you have to worry about shoveling your snow. So if you're a snowboarder, you can throw away your shovel and not worry about that anymore. And then second to last there is the affordable real estate. We are on the Pacific coast. If you go farther up the Pacific coast, you get into places like California, where costs are astronomical. So really, really affordable cost of living, real estate, climate, and then also just the sites. Beautiful, fun volcanoes to see. Towns like Leon, all these places are really quite worthy of checking out. And I would definitely encourage you to, at least, check it out for yourself so you can make your own opinion, but very, very beautiful country. And then getting into it from an investment standpoint, if you've followed us before, you've probably seen this chart, but this is the investment popularity curve. A lot of the times when people are looking at investments, they talk about places like Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Panama, Costa Rica. Those are very popular places. And as a result, you pay for that popularity. You can find good cash flow rental properties, but you're going to be paying that premium for it. Whereas places like Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, they're a lot lower on that popularity curve, but it gives you that chance for a really big appreciation, for your property. So, our property and what we're going to be talking about a little bit later today, EVA, that's something that, it's really got a great opportunity to work its way up and do quite well from an investment standpoint as well. And then another thing is living in harmony with nature. It's someone who, like myself, who's been born and raised in the US, I spend a lot of my time inside, in air conditioning or heating. We've got our TVs, we've got a lot of our resources that keep us inside throughout the day. Whereas when you're in some place like Nicaragua, most of living is done outdoors. So whether you're, horseback riding or surfing or, golfing, things like that, you spend a lot of time outside. And so you've got that beautiful, climate, you've got the ocean, we have a river for fishing. So there's a lot to do and really allows you to live, one with nature. And then here's some other things. Like I said, our property is quite large. We have over 3.5 miles of beachfront. So surfing is very popular. We actually have 2 surf breaks. So, whether you're a beginner or an expert, there's opportunities for you to surf there. Fishing, the river is an opportunity, but you also have the Pacific Ocean right there. So things like deep sea fishing, that's, a really great opportunity as well. Sustainable living is a big one. I think a lot of people in today's day and age are really somewhat conscious of the environment and things like that. And so, being able to grow your own fruits and vegetables, not being dependent on going to the grocery stores, that's important for a lot of people. And that's one thing Katie will talk about with our tiny homes with the sustainable living aspects. But it's something you're able to do in Nicaragua. And then community, we, as I mentioned a couple slides back, we develop these communities for people because, a lot of the times you come down, you can find a beautiful home, but it might be, deserted and there's no one around you and things like that. So building a community for you to get to interact with your neighbors, that's really important. And then some other sustainable living aspects that we have, instituted with our tiny homes, our green roofs. A lot of times you might think it's just an aesthetic purpose, but actually the green roof provides, additional barriers of insulation. So that can be important when it's, very warm and the sun's beating down on your roof, as opposed to upping, needing more air conditioning. That green roof helps with that aspect. Another one is great water recycling. So, when you wash your hands or you take a shower, instead of that water just being wasted, recycling it so that way it can be used for the garden and things like that. And then also lastly, off-grid living. So the tiny home communities will be off-grid completely. So they will have solar panels that will connect to a battery. So that way you're not worrying about those energy bills at the end of the month. And then going back to living in harmony with nature, here are some other things. You can see on the right, the picture of the surfer. And then also that river gives excellent opportunities for kayaking or paddleboarding. So a lot of really fun opportunities to be outdoors and get to be one with nature. And so I mentioned the tiny homes is just one of our communities within Gran Pacifica, which is our larger property. So here's the complete master plan of the property. So I'm not sure if people can see my mouse, but Katie, maybe you could point out that's where the EVA tiny homes are. That's what we'll be talking about today. But a lot of times people say, oh, well, I can't live in a tiny home where I have a large family. Like, is there other options? Yes, of course there are. But today we'll specifically be diving in and talking about EVA. Next week, we'll be having a webinar about our Bella community, which is next to the EVA tiny homes. So, we have a lot of resources, webinars about those different communities. So if you want those as well, don't hesitate to get in touch with us at webinar@ecidevelopment.com, and we'll send you those resources or links to sign up for the future webinars that we'll be hosting.
And while we're on this slide, I'm just going to jump in here real quick because you were mentioning all the things that you can do on site there at Gran Pacifica. And so this is a great way for folks to kind of see. There is this river, again, looking at my cursor, that runs right here north end of the property where EVA is. And that's where you can get on your paddleboard or your kayak and enjoy the river. Or you can also choose fishing in the ocean or fishing right there in the fresh water. We also have 2 surf breaks on the property because there's 3.5 miles of beachfront. And so where the EVA community is, the Eco Village Asuchillo is right there at Asuchillo Beach. It's like a 4-minute walk. That's a very swimmable beach, one of the best in the country. And you can do your practice surf lessons there. So for the beginners, you can really go out and have fun. And then for the expert surfer, down here at the southern end of the property in front of our Las Perlas oceanfront condos, also where we have our sea salt restaurant. You can see beautiful sunsets each night where everybody gathers, but there's a pro surf break called Meat Grinders right there.
Yeah, thanks, Katie, for mentioning that. And the next slide also shows some real footage of what the property looks like. This is just that area that is close to the condominiums and the single family home a community called San Diego Viejo. So I think in total, we've got over 80 homes, single family homes, but then, the tiny homes, we're building 100 of them. So, that'll double the amount of homes on site. but you can see that we're actually building this community by the sea. You can see the infrastructure, the roads are there, the sidewalks are there, the shaded sidewalks, I should say, because that's an important thing when in this part of the world, when the sun's out to get you, you have that shade, which is awesome. The underground electrical is important because no one wants to stare at phone poles all day long. So, all of that has already been instituted. That was a big thing for us. When we started out, it was a cattle pasture, and now, raising it to be what it is today, it's come a long way, but we're going to get into more of that. But there are some of the things, like I said, surfing, horseback riding, golfing, spa, dining as well. So a lot of options to do to keep you busy while you're on the property. A few more there on the right, there are some of those single family homes right there on the water. And then next to it is one of our condominium buildings, but golfing, you can see on the top left, that's not something that I actually thought about much until I started working with ECI Development, was the community aspect. There are beautiful places all over Central America, and things like a shaded sidewalk is just something that I really didn't think about until I really was like, wow, that would be not as fun to be walking right now without this shade. So it's something that really has been in the works for a long time. Like I said, we invested quite a lot as a company to get the infrastructure in, because that's important when creating the community. So next, Katie will kind of dive into more of the details regarding the tiny homes specifically. But like I said, we have more than just the tiny homes, but that's the focus of today's webinar.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. And I'm just going to take a second to answer a quick question. I saw Dawn was asking where the nearest airport is to the community. Great question, Dawn. And that is going to be in Managua. So Managua is about 45 minutes to an hour from the property. And this property is the closest beachfront resort to that main international airport. And again, before we move forward, if anybody has any questions that we don't get to in the webinar, feel free to reach out to us at webinar@ecidevelopment.com. You can see that right there in the lower portion of the screen. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the community itself. So the tiny homes, the EVA, and we have 4 different models to choose from, and we'll get into each one. Our only 2-bedroom, 2-bath is McCall, so that one's been very popular. And then each of the other 1-bedroom options just have, little nuances that really will stand out to each person who decides to invest in those. So with the lower model, that's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath with your rooftop patio. And we can see right here a little bit more of the floor plan for that green roof space as well. This model is going to be 344 square feet of interior space. And as you can see, like Joe was saying, you really do spend most of your time outdoors in the tropics. So you have 705 square feet of outdoor space. So it really just doubles your space to enjoy the outdoor, enjoy the weather, and most importantly, just enjoy that nice breeze coming in off the ocean. And so the lower model right now is starting at $139,900. If you're watching this webinar at a later date, do take note that the prices could change. This year has been really interesting for many reasons, and one of them also is that the cost of construction materials has really been all over the place. So we have been, having to adjust those prices accordingly. And then we have our Halcone model. This one is another 1-bedroom, 1-bath. This has the open loft design. This one's going to give you more of that covered space inside, and then you have the 279 square feet outside. This one's starting at $149,900. And then you again have more of that green balcony space. One thing I do notice down here in the tropics is you can grow whatever you want year round. And so a lot of people do like growing their fresh herbs right in their garden, their patio right there. But yes, you can grow whatever you want. Step outside, take a clipping, go inside and cook a nice fresh meal. We also have our Paracle model. That's another 1-bedroom, 1-bath. This one has the rooftop terrace, another open loft model. And so you can see, oops, let me go back right here. I really like this model because it opens up. You can just step outside and it gives you that nice feel of just opening up your house and having outdoor and indoor space kind of come together as one. And this model is going to have, again, nice large exterior outdoor space. The home is going at $134,500. Another green rooftop for you. And then the McCall model. This one, again, has been very popular. The McCall is that 2-bedroom, 2-bath, upstairs terrace. Nice to have that terrace because, again, you can have, your pots for your fresh vegetables and herbs growing outside for you. The interior space, this one is the largest, so it's 448 square feet of interior space and then 578 square feet of exterior space, going at 169.9. And we just had our marketing crew down at Gran Pacifica, so they were able to get some live footage for us of the construction that's been taking place. So you can see here we have our Perico and Macaw models, our Laura model. And this is one of my favorite pictures. So this really shows how the community has come together. I think anybody who has been following us for a little bit can share the excitement with us, you know, from the first idea to actually making it come to fruition. So you can see how close you really are to having that access to the Asuchillo beach. When they were on site, I think they timed it and it really is a 4-minute walk to the beach. So for those prices and having access to the beach, it's just unbeatable. And in this top picture, you can see that river that, again, Joe and I were referring to, that you can use for paddleboarding, kayaking, fishing. So again, just a few-minute walk. You know, Joe was mentioning the eco living and growing your own fruits and vegetables. And we really do focus on that. So we have access to, you know, community gardens, community orchards. And so just sitting right north here of the eco village, we do have the community orchards going into place. And then you can see the infrastructure going in, the roadways are being finished, have some palapas down here at the beach for you to enjoy. And here's another close-up. And again, look at all those macaw models. That was really a popular model. I love those 2-bedroom paths. So taking the next steps, you know, we, from the very beginning to now, we really only have a few home sites left. So if you're interested in joining the Eco Village right here on the Pacific Coast in Nicaragua, reach out to us, reach out to your property consultant. If you haven't been assigned a property consultant, don't worry, one will be assigned to you. You can also reach out to us at webinar@ecidevelopment.com. We really do only have a few home sites left, so reach out as soon as possible to get those questions answered and then finding out how to take your next steps. You know, we do have a lot of pathways to ownership, and with that also comes many ways to be able to fund your investment. So cash payment, everything with the cash payment, it is based on the construction. So the construction of your tiny home begins once we get that 50% with our paperwork, 20% when the foundation is complete, and then 20% when the walls are up, and that last 10% when we hand those keys over to you. We also do have financing available. If any of you have looked into financing as an expat and country in Latin America, it can be very difficult to find. So these are some great interest rates available for you. Again, reach out to us and we can go into details about that. We also accept cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Monero, and more. Things are constantly changing. So, you know, there's more to come. Gold bullion, which I love. I don't really see too many development companies out there that are accepting gold bullion. And then for our clients who are located in the United States, we do also accept the SDIRA. And again, reach out to us at webinar@ecidevelopment.com or your property consultant, and we can go over the details with how any of these work, but specifically the SDIRA, answer a lot of questions. And then we have resources, you know, for setting up your SDRA. And
yeah, and Katie, I just want to mention something. You know, a lot of the times, you know, it depends whether you're making, you know, investment, whether it's from a lifestyle perspective or an investment strictly perspective. And for a lot of people, you know, this is a lifestyle perspective. They do want to come down to Nicaragua and move there, potentially retire there. And so one thing that we do to really help people is discovery tours. You know, this past year has been a little bit hard just because, you know, for some people, they're not able to come down or their travel comfort level is a little bit different. But, you know, we do these tours to help people get familiar with not only our property, but also Managua. We go, you know, to a chocolate making shop, things like that, to really help people experience, you know, the country, you know, maybe for the first time. And so we do those. I don't know the dates off the top of my head because I don't think we have them planned just yet. But, you know, if you do want to be kept, you know, up to date about when our next tours will be, let us know. But you don't just have to come down for the tours. So let's say you have a week that works with your schedule, you know, let us know. We have people on site. You know, we have quite a large team that can be there to show you around, answer any questions you have when your boots are on the ground. So I know this webinar is a little bit of a help in terms of learning about the community, things like that. But for a lot of people, it really comes down to getting boots on the ground. So if you do want to, come down and check things out, get in touch with us, and we'd be happy to coordinate and help you out when that comes to be.
Absolutely. Great point. And so, you were just mentioning the rental, and we had a client ask a question, and they're asking if there's already a rental market at Gran Pacifica. And absolutely. So one great thing that I've seen with this property, hands down, is that it's not only the international tourism that comes in, but there's a lot of local tourism. So one thing I've noticed about living in Latin America is everybody loves to celebrate. There's always something to celebrate. And so it seems like there's a lot of holidays. So right there at Gran Pacifica, we do have quite a few folks coming in from Managua for their long weekend, celebrating their holiday. So you do have a lot of diversity with that. Who's renting at Gran Pacifica? Through the years, I think when Gran Pacifica first was established, it was definitely geared as like a retirement community, but we've seen a lot of that change, throughout the years. And right now there definitely are a lot of families that are not just going to Gran Pacifica to vacation, but are moving there, living there full time. We also have, expats that have realized they don't have to be tied to a desk or an office. So we have those digital nomads that are also moving there. So there's really been this big shift in who's living there, who's staying there. And then of course you have people coming there to vacation and surf. How long, let's see. How far is Gran Pacifica from Managua? Well, we went over that one, but again, Gran Pacifica is 45 minutes to an hour from Managua, depending on what part of the city you're in. And then how long does construction of a tiny home take? You might have to answer that one for me, Joe. Is it 10 to 12 months?
Yeah, 10 to 12 months. A lot of it can factor on weather. In Nicaragua, there's pretty dedicated seasons. So dry season and then a rainy season. If you happen to be interested during rainy season, things like that can slow down construction. But, we have a team that's currently building, I think 40 right now are under construction, with another 20 foundations being currently dug and things like that. So, they don't take as long as your 5,000 square foot home or anything like that. But, certain things can, like I said, rainy season can play a factor in slowing things down. But yeah, 10 to 12 months. And then you would get the keys handed over, be able to put it into rental program. So pretty simple build.
Right. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, of course.
And another question was what home sites that are left are going to be the best. We don't have the site map available right now in the webinar, but you can definitely reach out again to any one of your property consultants. We'll send you the up-to-date brochure. It'll show which home sites are available. I think we were down, and don't quote me on this, the last time I looked, I think it was about 14 or 15 of the homes were left. Some great sites still available. One thing that we do also focus on is this is tropics. So there's going to be a lot of that lush green foliage. Going backwards here a little bit on the slides, I know right now this is definitely an active construction site. So you do have to use a little bit of your imagination. One thing I love about the landscaper, she came in and they removed all the foliage before construction began. We're keeping those plants alive, and then we'll be replanting them and adding more of that landscaping for our clients. So that'll create a lot of privacy. So really, each site is going to have, what a client's looking for, closer to a palapa. Again, we really do focus on bringing community together. The palapa hasn't been built yet, but on our brochure map, you will be able to see where we have our yoga palapa. There's going to be a pool. Again, a lot of areas that really do bring that community together. And so some folks do want to have easy access to those.
Yeah, and touching on that, Katie, forget who just asked that question about which one might be the best. There's not necessarily one that's the best that's available left. I mean, really, the whole site itself is, not much difference in geography. You don't see like a mountain there that some homes are on. So the area there is quite equal. So, there's not necessarily one that's necessarily 100% better than the other. At that point, it really comes down to, well, do you want to be in the one that's available that's maybe closest to the, check-in area, or the one that's farthest from the check-in area, or the one that's, on the outskirts. So, get in touch with us, and that way we can really walk it through with you and see kind of what you're looking for, because, there's not necessarily like one is the absolute outright best. They're all very, very, very similar when it comes down to, things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, I was touching base on who's at Gran Pacifica and who's coming to visit, who's renting. We have seen a huge influx. I know for me personally, a lot of my clients have decided to move to Nicaragua full time. So moving there, you do have the option of becoming a resident. So being a permanent resident gives you that plan B. It allows you to live and work in the country. And so, $30,000 is the minimum investment in Nicaragua to obtain that residency for the investor program. There's also the pensioner program. And so we can go into further detail, put you in touch with an immigration attorney that we work with there in Nicaragua, and they can really answer those questions for you, get you going on that.
Yeah, and similar to our tiny home brochure, we do have a guideline that really walks you through the different costs associated with it. So that is a great resource if it's something that you're considering. Nicaragua residency might not be the best residency in the world, but it's always good to have a plan B, or maybe you are really considering Nicaragua from a retiree perspective. So it's definitely not one that's really hard to get, but do note those two options that Katie just mentioned are really two of the most popular, because any tiny home would qualify you. One thing to note with the investor residency is you do have to make the investment in a local business. So you'd have to set up with the immigration attorney a local company, and that local company would be the owner of that investment. So one thing to just note, but yeah, do let us know if you're gonna, if you're someone who's maybe looking to get out of your home country and come to Nicaragua. Do kind of think about it a little bit ahead of time, because sometimes what we see happen, our clients, they say, hey, I'm coming to Nicaragua next week, and you do have to have copies of passports and a lot of different things to qualify. So just get in touch with us a little bit beforehand. It's something like insurance. You don't really want to be trying to look for insurance after you had a heart attack. So reach out to us beforehand, make sure you have all the right documents, and that way when you come to Nicaragua, you don't realize you forgot one utility bill, and now you've basically just wasted the trip. So that resource that we have is very comprehensive, and our immigration attorney is very, very helpful in making sure you have a seamless process.
Great point. I have a couple other questions. Do you have any rentals at Gran Pacifica if I want to come and stay when my home is being built? Yes, we do. I think we're running a little low, but we definitely have some options. Like I was saying, we have a lot of clients that are choosing to move to Gran Pacifica while their homes are being built. But again, just reach out to your property consultant or webinar ECIDevelopment.com. We'll put you in touch with the reservations team at Gran Pacifica, and they'll send you over a list of what's available, pricing. And what I really love is they send a link so you can see a handful of pictures of all the rentals that are available. So pretty comprehensive. How long does it take to get from EVA to the condo area? So the condo area at Gran Pacifica is really kind of the gathering place of the property. There's the restaurant and an infinity pool. The condos are right there. And so from the EVA community, I think it'd be about a 20-minute walk, but it would be an even faster walk on the beach. It would have to be low tide in order to walk directly on the beach, but you can definitely walk through the neighborhoods to get to the condo area.
Yeah, and if you take a golf cart or a car, it's just a few minutes. So it's really not that far, but we do have quite a bit of land. So if you're someone who likes to run or walk in the mornings, you can kind of go between the different communities to have a good time there. But yeah, it's really not far, and you can walk it as well.
You have any numbers you can run to show cash flow for investment? Great answer, Dawn. So you can definitely reach out to us individually, and we can put together an ROI chart for you for each of the models, the different payment options. If you're paying for cash or financing 50 or 80%, we can definitely put an individual plan together for you. So just reach out to us, Dawn. Yes, this
and
is
then
my
Katie, no, I was just going to say, I don't know if a lot of people here have been on some of our other webinars, but we do create these things very similar to our webinars called handbooks. Really, our goal is to create a one-stop shop for any questions you have when looking over, a country. So, all about things about holidays, like Katie mentioned, everyone in Nicaragua seems to celebrate every holiday. So knowing what holidays celebrated, medical facilities, a lot of those kind of things are covered in our webinars, but the handbook is a lot more in depth in going over that. Things like where's a JCI accredited hospital, which is it's an accreditation that very, very first world type hospitals receive, and Nicaragua has some. So just knowing where they are, things like that are very important. And instead of going and Googling and trying to find all these things, we've made it as easy as possible by doing it in a handbook. So if you'd like free copy of that, get in touch with us, and we'll just put in the subject, Nicaragua handbook, and we'll send that over to you for you to look over.
Absolutely. This is my first time looking at property overseas. This is from anonymous attendee. Well, congratulations, and I'm glad you joined us today. Do you have any good advice for me? Anonymous attendee, we definitely have a lot of resources for you. Joe mentioned ECI Development has been in the region since like 1996. So we have a lot of resources we put together for our clients. We have a lot of clients like yourself that it's their first time investing overseas. So we have a global property resource kit. Like Joe mentioned earlier, for Nicaragua in particular, we really just finished an hour-long webinar on Nicaragua lifestyle. We have Nicaragua 101. So any of the countries we're in, we have these additional resources for you, and reach out to us and we can get those sent over to you. Definitely start with the Nicaragua handbook. I've read all the handbooks. Our team has done a phenomenal job putting together a lot of details, and I have definitely found a lot of really useful tidbits in them. Let's see, speaking of medical facilities, where is the closest hospital to the property? So the JCI accredited hospital that Joe mentioned is going to be in Managua, and then there are other clinics and pharmacies. I forget the name of the town. I can definitely send it over, but that was anonymous attendee. So we don't know your name or how to contact you. You can send that question to webinar@ecidevelopment.com, and we can send you over the specifics. We do have closer clinics to the property, I think 20 minutes away.
Yeah, there's Masa Chapa, there's San Rafael del Sur. Those are really the places you go if you have maybe a sore throat or some small thing. But if you're needing a larger surgery or things like that, that will be done in the city most likely. And the nice thing about it is, we're pretty close. So it's not like you have to drive 4 hours to get to the city to have these kind of operations. So it's a pretty good location from that perspective. But yeah, there are some local places that you can get simple things, but you're not getting big operations in those little towns. So, but yeah, reach out to us, and we can show you on Google Maps so you have a very good understanding of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And there was also a blog that I had just sent actually today to a client, and it was our co-founder, Mike Cobb, talking about his daughter having surgery at the JCI accredited hospital there in Managua. So our co-founder, Mike Cobb, lived in Nicaragua for 14 years with his 2 children and his wife. So that was a great blog, and we can definitely send that over to you as well. Great. And so, like I was saying before, we do have a large team. This is your property consultants. You might have, recognized some of us, have already reached out and talked to some of us. We also have Rachel Jensen, who's our VP of Sales, and then our administrative assistant, April Hess. So you might see those 2 ladies CC'd in on some of the emails, but reach out to us with any questions. And again, make sure you write down that email address, webinar@ecidevelopment.com, and we can get any of the resources we mentioned sent over to you, and then answer any of those questions that might not have been answered in the webinar tonight. And there is that email address that I mentioned. I'll leave this right here so that way you can write it down and you have it on hand. And then I'm going to see if we have any more questions coming in. Oops.
Yeah, and while you're looking for questions, Katie, one thing I wanted to mention, we do a lot within the communities that we work in. We've been around for a while. And so one of the things we're doing is a Tortuga 5K race coming up at our Gran Pacifica property. That's to raise money for a school drive, to gather, funds to help, kids that need school supplies. So, if you're interested in that, a lot of people on this probably aren't necessarily going to be in Nicaragua for that time. We will have a virtual component as well. So, we'd like to coordinate that kind of stuff to give back to the communities around us. So if you're interested in participating, send us an email about the Tortuga 5K in that webinar at ECIDevelopment.com, and we'll get you linked up with those details.
Let's see. When is the pool complex expected to be completed? That was from Jonathan. So Jonathan, for the EVA community, that will be coming once we start finishing up with this first phase. So each development, we do add pools for the communities. And then I know there's going to be an additional restaurant coming on site as well. So everything will be done in phases. I know Joe mentioned we have about 80 homes right now. Each community really does have an addition happening. So our Mila community homes just began We have about 40 active tiny homes, adding on more and more every day. We just finished up with one of our condo buildings, and then we're taking reservations for the next. So you'll see a lot more added into the community. Oh, Jonathan said for Ava specifically. Yeah, so that will be coming soon. And Jonathan, we can definitely reach out to our construction team and ask for a little bit more of a detailed answer on that too. Right. See if there's another question coming in. It looks like those are all the questions that are coming in. So I'll just wait another minute and see if anybody has anything else they want to ask. Okay. Well, Joe, do you have anything else that you want to add?
No, nothing specifically. I think just to sum up, we've been around for a while. This is one of our, newer communities. So, if you want resources about the country, us specifically, if you're trying to do your due diligence on us, we have a lot of resources, and we'll be happy to send as much as you'd like. So, don't hesitate to get in contact with us, or if you're, trying to come down and visit, we're very, very, able to give you guys tours, things like that. So I commend you guys for all taking a great first step in joining these webinars and learning more. But yeah, don't hesitate to ask. We've got a great team. They're here to answer your questions. So use us as a resource when needed. So
absolutely, we do have a great team, and I think that is one thing that I really appreciate about the team is that we have all made that jump. We've all lived in one place, made the jump to live international. So we've been there, we've done that, we've experienced it, we know what it's like. And so that really gives you a firsthand experience. But again, the company ECI has really done a great job of offering a lot of resources. Mike, I think he always says, well, I put in the time and the work, and now I'm giving you the information. So really don't hesitate to reach out. So I thank you for joining us tonight. I don't see any more questions coming in, but again, you all have that email address right down here at the bottom. So if you're something that comes up a little bit later that you forgot to ask, go ahead and reach out to us. But for right now, thank you for joining us. Again, my name is Katie, and thank you for joining me, Joe.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.